For insight into what Yellen's appointment means for monetary policy in the markets, we're joined now by Peter Schiff, CEO and Chief Global Strategist at Euro Pacific Capital, and he joins us from Western Connecticut. Welcome to Market Sense, Peter.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's talk about it. What does this mean for the markets going forward? Accommodative seems like it's a lot more Ben Bernanke going forward, if not just a little more dovish. Is that your take?
Yeah, you know, her nomination is not unexpected, but I do think that he made the worst possible choice of the candidates that he was considering, although maybe Ben Bernanke could breathe a sigh of relief here because now he won't go down in history as America's worst Fed chairman.
All right, let's pick up on that. I said at the top that this was the worst job possible right now because everybody else was handing out the alcohol and you're going to have to take it away at some point. Do you agree with that, or do you think they're just going to keep kicking that can down the road?
Yeah, she's not going to take the alcohol away. She's going to spike the punch bowl with even more alcohol. She's going to be well over $100 billion a month. Who knows before she's through. She is going to resist ending this party as long as possible because I think she really believes all this nonsense, all this Keynesian stuff that she learned at Harvard or Yale or Berkeley. I mean, at least guys like Alan Greenspan knew better. I mean, they knew that this didn't work. They did it anyway because Greenspan had his roots in sound money and Ayn Rand and in the gold. He understood these things. I don't think Yellen's ever understood anything. She's just lived in liberal academia her whole life and worked at the Fed. So I think she really believes this nonsense. And so she's going to resist the cure as long as possible. She actually thinks that inflation is good, that you create prosperity and growth and jobs by debasing money. So this is a very dangerous person at a very dangerous time to be heading a very dangerous institution like the Fed.
Peter, step our viewers through this process then, because right now with the minutes that came out today, it looks like the FOMC would want to begin tapering at some point in the near future, at least if not at the end of 2013, at some point in 2014. To not catch the market unawares again, they will have to step us through a process of telling us that things are looking worse than anticipated, that they need to step up the $85 billion to a higher amount. How do they do that without, I guess, losing any credibility that they still have right now?
Well, they've got no credibility with me, and anybody who's intelligent should have, figured out that they have no credibility. But for the people who trust the Fed, that is the tightrope that they're walking. I mean, they deliberately got expectations for a taper, knowing they weren't going to do it. I said it was their game plan all along because they can't tell the truth, that they can never taper because the economic recovery is not real. It's an illusion created by QE, and if you take away the QE, you take away the illusion. So they can't say that. So they have to pretend that it's a viable recovery, so they have to pretend they're getting ready to taper. But they know they can never do it. So the Fed is going to keep up making excuses why they're not going to taper, but they can't, because the minute they do, we'll be in a worse recession than we were before they started the whole QE.
Peter, you have said that in the past, that it is not an economic recovery in terms of what we're seeing. When you look at the FOMC minutes today, it almost echoes, to a degree, a little bit about what you're saying as it relates to they do see financial risk to the marketplace right now. But walk us through another aspect that is exacerbating this situation, which is, of course, the U.S. government shutdown and the debt ceiling. And is this the new norm that we are going to be living in as it relates to looking back to 2011? We're looking at it now again. There is